Welcome to Bird Camp Radio, where the coveys rise from the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and the shelf rock ledges. Here at camp, the fire's always glowing, the dogs are never far, and the stories of birds, wild places, and the upland life are just beginning. This is Bird Camp Radio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bird Camp Radio podcast. It's your host, Kellen Golightly, and we're excited to be here for our episode 12 of Bird Camp Radio with Andrew Terry. Andrew sent in his bio just a little bit earlier, and we're excited to read that to you now. Andrew Terry began his hunting journey in California's Sacramento Valley, where he grew up pursuing quail and pheasants behind a duck dog. Raised by his grandfather, a Great Depression survivor who hunted when it truly meant survival, Andrew was taught that every animal taken carries value, deserving to be prepared with care and eaten with gratitude. That early grounding instilled a lifelong respect for the land, the game, and the process. What began as a passion for hunting and cooking wild birds eventually evolved into several small businesses. Andrew now breeds upland bird dogs, training work gun dogs, and guides both upland and waterfowl hunts, turning a deeply rooted lifestyle into a profession. After relocating to the west side of Oregon's Cascade Range, Andrew discovered an exceptional grouse hunting landscape. Living where he hunts has afforded him countless hours in the woods, allowing him to develop an intimate understanding of bird behavior and movement throughout the day. In addition to consistent grouse opportunities, he also pursues mountain quail and band-tailed pigeons, staying immersed in the uplands throughout the seasons. Andrew brings a thoughtful, experience-driven perspective to bird hunting, one shaped by tradition, time of field, and a deep respect for the birds that continue to define his life and work. Andrew, we're excited to have you on, man. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You know, grouse hunting is just so much dang fun.
Yeah, man. I mean, a little bit before this, guys, we've been able to sit down and talk with him for quite some time. And dude, you got so much experience, and it sounds like he's just an absolute blast to be able to hunt with. I'm looking forward to hopefully one day being able to go hunt with this guy because he's got stories.
Hey, my spot's always open for you. You know, I got that little spot for guests that can come anytime. It's really neat to have the variety that I had. You know, on the east slope of the Cascades, it was mostly just blue grouse with a very, very seldom ruff. And you know, when I came over to the other side, it was mostly for work at that time. But I realized, wow, this is just amazing over here on the west slope of the Cascades. You know, being able to have 3 blues and 3 rough per day, and then having the mountain quail, which a lot of guys don't get to even see, but being able to go from September 1st all the way to the end of January and get 10 quail, 3 blue and 3 rough a day, it was just awesome. And I didn't realize how good it can be once you understand what to look for. That's what I was talking to you about earlier was, you know, a lot of guys, they work real hard and they grind out there, and then they finally get that bird, and then they just keep charging forward and they don't stop and observe the conditions where they got the bird.
Right.
Where, okay, so we wandered around and then we got a bird. Well, you wandered through a lot of stuff to get to that one spot where you found one. And typically there's something a little bit different about it, or, you know, special, or maybe it's everywhere and you just got lucky in that one spot. But typically there's a reason why birds are in an area. And so I think a lot of guys need to slow down and just kind of be a little more observant about that condition found the bird. Was it at the top of the mountain, at the bottom? Was it a west slope or an east slope? Or where I find them in the water ground is I find them where the food is. You know, berries that they eat are really obvious. And so I'll come around a corner and I'll say, whoa, that's grousey.
That makes sense, man. I love that. With that said, before we continue any farther, would it be all right if we played that quick game of rapid fire around the campfire with you? All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, so this is just a quick 10 question rapid fire around the campfire. We'll ask you 10 questions about upland game, and you can do it as quick as you can. We have a leaderboard with the fastest guys, which we'll release at the end of this episode. So whenever you're ready, man, we're ready to go.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Favorite wild bird to chase?
Blue grouse.
Most challenging bird?
Pintail duck.
Favorite dog trait?
Real close working dogs.
Best bird for eating?
Blue grouse.
Go-to field snack?
Goose jerky.
Dream hunting destination?
South Dakota.
Favorite month to hunt?
September.
Game bag or vest?
Vest.
Solo hunt or with a group? Lead or steel shot?
Steel's fine with me.
There we go, man. That's all the questions. And we'll release that time at the end of the podcast.
All good. All good. Yeah, blue grouse are delicious, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Delicious.
We love our blue grouse here, man. I mean, they're native here to Utah and they're a lot of fun. We had our DWR biologist on, and that's what she focused on, was talking about blue grouse, and that was quite a fun experience being able to have her on here.
Yeah, yeah. What is your limit there in Utah?
So we can do 4 blue grouse and then 4 ruffed grouse, and that's what we have. Of course, we have our sharp tails and our sage, but we had to draw out on those.
Mhm. Got it. So we do have a drawing for sage grouse, and that's in the month of August. It's not a tough draw to get. It's just really hot and dry in a tough part of the region.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, that's something my friends have gone and done it, and they really want me and my dogs to go do that hunt. But honestly, it's just a little bit much for me.
Oh, yeah,
So
man.
you know, boy, my dogs are a little heavy haired, you know, and so they're more for, colder, wetter environments. And so the desert in August is pretty tough.
Yeah,
I'll admit that.
it's a little tough.
They don't take that high desert heat that great. Let's just say that. So
I get that.
yeah. Well, that's a really liberal limit.
It is. It really is.
4 and 4. I mean, do you come into limiting out like that very often?
Last year, we did really well. Last year was a very good year for us. This year has been it's been difficult. I mean, we didn't get much of a snowpack last year, so we've been a little more dry than usual, and especially right now at this time of year, like where we're at right now, I mean, we've been sitting at 50 degrees every day, and it's like, holy cow. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's been decent this year. Don't get me wrong, it's been good, but it's been a lot more spottier than it has been in the past. But it's been a good
Well,
time.
we had the most amazing ruffed grouse here in history. It was just incredible.
Oh,
Um, the Cascade Range just seemed to pump out the ruffed grouse. Um, it was really a treat, that's for sure.
dude, that's what we like to hear.
Like I said, we mostly get blues, and then a ruffed grouse is almost like a bonus bird. But this year it was almost the opposite for us. But we had a lot of, I had a couple friends that get 3 ruffed and 2 blues. I don't think anybody got the 3 and 3 this season, but a lot of 3 and 2 and 2 and 3s, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Um, but that's usually never the case. It's usually a ruffed for the trip. So yeah, I'm really happy to see the birds the way they were out there this year. It was a great, great September. Let's just say that. Um, I'll tell you, you know, like I was telling you earlier, There could be 100 square miles of woods, and the animals want to be in that 1 square mile of it.
Uh-huh.
And it takes a bit to find that. But when you do, then you start knowing what to look for,
Right.
you know? Um, and again, that's just something you got to slow down and start observing. Uh, and a lot of guys just keep hiking on. And I think that's a problem, you know?
Mhm. It's like, "I'll just skip this out and keep
But
on
yeah,
going."
yep, yep. But the mountain quail, boy, they seem a lot smarter than the grouse. They do not stick around. The dogs, you better have a careful dog because they're pretty flighty, pretty intelligent birds. Um, but yeah, they seem to be everywhere on the west slope, and it's a lot of fun. But a lot of guys will see a lot of mountain quail and get you might see 3, 4 coveys a day and get actually a shot at one, just
Uh-huh.
because they're so dang smart. And I guess that's why they're so prolific because they are not going to stand there for you to, make a mistake. You make a mistake with a mountain quail, they're just say goodbye, you know. And at least over here, like I said, it's, you know, you'd probably have a little culture shock with all of the green and water and how thick it is. I noticed where you were hunting was really open with timber pockets and a lot of meadow. I wish we had more meadow over here, but the timber practices are such that it's pretty thick. But it doesn't seem to bother the birds much right now, But yeah, you got to get yourself over here and come see it because it's pretty neat.
Seriously,
Uh,
man.
Yeah, there's a waterfall almost on every corner. But like I said, once you find those patterns, you can almost look on a map and start to find new places by just looking at the places you found them before. I actually have a map of the national forest I hunt, and I put a little X where I find birds. Um, and so I know, okay, well, let's check this grove of trees. And there's literally groves of trees that grouse want.
Mhm.
Um, and from some of the reading that I did, like those big rooster grouse, they don't leave much of about 1 mile square. They like their little spot. And I don't know, do you guys ever get out in the spring much? But one of the best techniques, Kellen, that you might ever think of doing is getting out in those woods in the spring around turkey season and listening for those bluegrass to drum. And all you're doing is you're finding that grove of trees that he's drumming from, and you mark that on a map and come back in the fall. And there's going to be a bunch of birds in that area. Because we have wild turkeys in the Cascades, we could go hunt the turkeys in the spring and we'd hear these bluegrouse just drumming in the trees. And I thought, wow, that is the biggest bluegrouse I ever seen. And sure enough, you come back in September and they'll be there. And so that's another really good technique that I found in big mountain country. Go up there in the spring and listen for birds and find the trees. There'll be certain little groves of trees that those rooster blues will call from. And they won't be far from that in September for some reason. And so I've actually used that to, on the off season, just kind of get out there in the woods and kind of figure out stuff. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
No, that's a
Uh,
great thing, man.
in May, April, May, you can't go bird hunt, but heck, you could plan for the fall, right?
That's right.
Um, and so literally they'll give themselves plumb away with that big loud drumming they do in those trees, right? So all you gotta do is go, okay, and there'll be a strip of trees, and you go, oh, he's in that little strip of trees right there. Well, then come back in September. Him and his honey and his babies are going to be somewhere in that grove. So it's been a really, really productive thing. I know it's kind of off of a normal bird hunter's kind of habit to be looking for birds in the spring. but that's a time that they are loud and show themselves. So it's a great time to, if you don't know where to start, go there in the spring, and then the birds will just sing to you, and you can go, okay, I'll be back for you, buddy, and literally go back. And I don't think many people have thought of that technique for, scouting for the future, so to speak. You know, yeah, get out there and listen for the birds, Kellen. Get out there and listen in the spring.
Oh
They're
yeah,
gonna tell you so much. They're gonna tell you so much about your mountain. If just go up there, find a high spot, and just sit and listen.
that's the
Uh,
nice thing is
I don't, yeah,
like for us, I mean, during the springtime, we're up there shed hunting a lot. So I mean, it's a great opportunity for us to get out there and like have something to
yep,
motivate us to get out there and do it. I've definitely seen that for us, especially this year.
yep, yep. I think that's a great idea to have a, more than one purpose to be in the woods when you're not really hunting. You know, to shed hunt and find what I call the grove. There's groves of trees that grouse want. Um, and I think that's what gets them through the winter and also, well, through the whole year, honestly. I think the biggest roosters have the best of the habitats. They have the best roost and food and cover or whatever. And I think they compete for that because the best hens want at best for babies. So you should secure that area and then get the best hens. And I really think in the spring, those really the rooster, they really show you where those areas are. To have, we pick morels also. You're out there picking morel mushrooms in the spring and you hear the grouse, you know. But maybe it was kind of like double reasons to be in the woods, those dual purpose outings. Um, could be really good for you. Whether you use the electronic, use your phone and Onyx or whatever to put a pin on certain groves of trees that birds are in now, or if you take a paper map and a pen and actually mark the map like I do. I put BG for blue grouse and I put an R for rough grouse and I mark up a map. Um, and I can go back year after year. And typically, if I don't beat the spot up, so to speak, and take a bird or two from that little area and then move on, you can kind of have a little, list of areas all set up on your map, so to speak, you know.
Right.
Um, and so I think, guys got to get. I know I'm an old school guy, and I'm 52 years old and whatever, but I love my paper map. It doesn't need service to function. And they serve you well, and actually marking up your map with the information you have makes that map so valuable to you. It's pretty easy to go, yeah, I know where that spot is. And then you try to go back and go, I thought this was it. Well, you literally, put a pit, it sounds to me like you're so high up. Heck, I don't know if cell phones work where you're at. Is that something that even works where you're hunting?
It gets very spotty. I mean, I know with our Onyx, like we use Onyx a lot and sometimes I can't even get it to load. I know for us, we spent a lot of time in the 8,000, 9,000 elevation range. Here in Utah, our highest is Kings Peak at roughly 13,000 feet. So
Wow.
we're up there quite a ways.
Yeah. But the phone, so do you just kind of, I mean, are you running paper maps on top of having your phone, or are you just kind of hoping you know where you're at? Or
So for me personally, for the most part, we can have Onyx work. So it'll always pull up. But every once in a while, I mean, it'll lag, so exactly where it's at, sometimes it's not correct. For the most part, it works really well, but I mean, sometimes with the technicalities of, like, the exact pinpoint of things, it can be slightly off, but for the most part, I can get around for the most part, but yeah. So I only use that as of now, but I need to look into that with the maps and stuff.
I just feel better about it because it's so I'm not even that high up, honestly, but we're really canyony and there's a lot of different draws and a lot of stuff out here. Last year, mushroom hunting in the fall, we mushroom hunt and grouse hunt at the same time, which is nothing like a pan full of wild mushrooms and grouse. But I've kind of rescued, last year, I rescued two mushroom hunters that assumed that their phone and Onyx and service was going to get them home. And they literally were lost in the woods running out of fuel because they didn't know which turns to take.
Ooh,
Um, and that's when, it's like, man, if you had a paper map, you would have been out of here. Um, and so I've actually had people, because your phone doesn't need service to take a picture. So I'd be like, look, take a picture of the map right here, and this is the way to get home, you know?
that's a good
Um,
idea.
and so anyway, yeah, look, Kellen, even if you don't need a paper map, think of it this way. If you're out there in the woods and you come into an emergency situation, that map is a great fire starter to get that wet kindling going to where you can get a fire going to where someone could find you.
That's a good point.
Um, and so, a phone isn't going to be kindling to start a fire, but your map could. And, when you spend as much time in the high country as I have, you have to be very creative. And so every little thing that you carry should have multiple purposes, right? Otherwise, it's a burden.
Right.
Um, but a paper map is got multiple things. It's a piece of paper, right? So it can start a fire. You wipe your dang butt with it. I mean, there's a million uses for that where your phone is not going to save you.
Right, right.
Um, and so, heck, what if you slip in a creek and your phone gets dunked in the water?
Yeah, it's done.
You're a horse guy. What if your phone pops out of your hands and your horse steps on your phone?
Yeah,
I mean, things happen in the woods, and it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of redundancy out there. And you know, I I love my phone and I like my maps and I like the tech, but I personally just don't. I think it's mildly reckless to count on your phone for navigation. Coming home is half of the hunt, right? Like going out to hunt's part and coming back safely is another. But a paper map for multiple reasons. Marking down those areas, those groves of trees where they're calling from. A fire starter. You've got so many things, and the map doesn't lie. It's always there. So please, if you're going in those mountains, don't just trust your phone. Please, it's important. A trauma kit and a map is really, really important out there.
yeah,
I carry a pretty comprehensive first aid kit, at least in my vehicle, if not out there if I can. But I even have a stapler for myself or the dogs if it gets too bad. Um, I don't know if you've ever had to staple a dog, but sometimes that can get you back to the vet to where if you have a lot into your dog, you know, it can
right,
get split open and you can too. And so, yeah, I carry a pretty good set out there in the vehicle. At least if you can get to the vehicle, back to the vehicle, you're going to have a good set of first aid of equipment. But, I think guys do focus sometimes on the hunt, and there is some safety stuff and equipment that the old man that taught me a lot about deer and elk used to go out with a dang pocket knife, a cell phone, and his rifle.
uh-huh,
I just thought that was reckless. Not a smoker, but I think a lighter and being able to start a fire is a very important thing. Something you should have out there.
no,
But
I completely agree. That's good advice, man. I need to look into that because honestly, it's easy to get. I mean, here back at home, you get easy. You're like, man, this is pretty reliable. I can do whatever I want. Life's pretty consistent. But up in the mountains, man, it's not always consistent.
No, well, things happen that you don't. You can make all the assumptions in the world, but that doesn't cover what could actually really happen. And phones break. Phones get dropped. You can lose your phone. You could drop it in a creek, like I said. And I've had that one. I went to go get my buddy's first wood duck and didn't realize my phone was in a precarious pocket, and I reached over and it bloop right into the river.
Oh,
And what do you do then? You know? Um, you're a horse guy, your horse bucks, and you end up down the trail 200 yards before you get your animal back under control. And heck, the phone fell out of your pocket while the horse was bucking or bolted or whatever, and it's dark outside. You're screwed, man. And so, yeah, being prepared is important too, just as much as any part of it. But I think a paper map is a big mistake. Most people don't bring those. They should bring a paper map just in case.
yeah, you never know. It's always better to
You
have
just
it, not
don't.
need it, than need it, not have it.
Well, it's not like it's a heavy item.
No,
It's not like it's a 20-pound jug of water. It's so you fold up and put in your pack or put in your back pocket or whatever. But for me, I just feel better having it. That's for sure. And like I said, once you start really understanding areas where birds want to be, you can start finding those similar areas just by looking on a map.
right.
I found birds and it's about this elevation with this contours and it's facing this direction. Well, look at this. This looks like a lot like it. It's just a couple spots over. And so you can kind of, you know, start to surmise and assume, these areas are very similar and you might get the similar outcome from that, you know? Um, but yeah, when you find the birds, study it, figure out oh, is it a steep slope? Is it flat? Is it west? Is it east? There's things, and then go find another one just like it and go get some more. Um, and hopefully you have a big enough piece of country where you can keep doing that. Sounds like you have that blessing with that big a country.
We do.
Geez.
Yeah, we have it pretty good over here with our public land, that's for sure, and we're pretty set as of right now, for sure.
Are you guys hunting national forest or is that wilderness?
So we hunt a lot of national forest where we're at. I've hunted a little wilderness. The past few years, we've really tried to get out and see some new country, because for the majority of my life, I've hunted in one specific area, basically everything from big game to upland game. It's been kind of in the same area, but now we're starting to really expand out and kind of we've gotten to see quite a bit of northern Utah now, and it's great with the amount of public land we have, and it's very vast. I mean, it's very diverse. Everywhere you go, it's quite different.
Yep. Yep. Are you guys hunting chuckers over there too?
Yeah, so we hunt chuckers too. So over on the eastern side of northern Utah is where we really get into, well, at least us, we get into our grouse a lot in those high pines. But going out west of us, man, where we're at, you can go out west 20, 30 minutes out and you're into chuckers and hunts pretty good. So,
That's awesome. I heard the areas where I could go have great populations of chukar. I just haven't found the time to go mess with it. It's just the waterfowl thing is starting to really kick off for me, and guys just aren't showing the interest to go on that trip.
wow.
So I'm just saying, I mean, I know where there's lots of chukar, lots of them, lots of quail, some pheasants in the bottoms, but phenomenal chukar hunting. I mean, it's been 6 years since I hunted that spot, but geez, we were seeing hundreds of chukar a day, you know? Um, they're flighty, but we get our birds.
Right, right.
So but, it's very harsh, it's very cold, it's very remote, but really good hunting. But it's a commitment, when you drive you gotta when you go that far, you can't just go for 1 day, you kinda have to go for 3 to 5 days to really make a run like that worth it. When you run 7 to 9 hours, you should stay there for a few days.
Right.
Um, and guys these days, man, again, like I was saying about the younger guys, they're working so hard just to pay the bills and just to survive. Boy, a 3 to 5 day run to Eastern Oregon and all the fuel and, you're missing work and everything, it's hard for guys to commit to that.
It is.
Um, I mean, shoot, everything's so expensive, like we were talking earlier. Boy, it was tough for me when I was young. I couldn't imagine now it's even tougher. And it's downright discouraging for that younger generation right now who's just trying to scratch together a survival, let alone try to have fun and go hunt, you know? Um, and I really feel for the younger generation on that level because it's dang hard to make it.
It is.
So when you're starting out and don't have a journeyman skill yet, dang, that's got to be tough.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, geez, I don't know what your gas prices are, but I don't like mine. That's for sure.
They could always be better.
Yeah, I can always be better. Right? But yeah, like I said, that's kind of what runs our little, you know, fuel for our vehicles really runs our hunts, and having extra money for a guy to get out and go, that could be tough for some.
No, seriously. I know talking to the DWR biologist and kinda getting to know them, they've kinda said, like, with the male population, hunting has declined over the years, like, there's not as many males getting into hunting as it used to be, so it's like a real shocker.
Well, it's a simple economics, I mean, you gonna eat or you gonna go play? Um, and a lot of people are in that position right now. It's not an easy conversation, but the classes are dividing, and some are doing really good and some are struggling. Um, but it's definitely, they just jacked up the rates here in Oregon for our tags and licenses and stuff by quite a bit. Um, and so, you know, every time everything gets jacked up and wages aren't rising with that, we're gonna lose hunters. Um, right now I'm seeing we're on the verge of losing farmers.
Yeah,
A lot of the farms where I hunt geese and ducks on, they 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 did dismal this year. Um, like the worst year they ever had. And so, talking about having fun hunting when you're having one of your worst years ever is not easy. But, you know, there's only one way out of that, and that's more work, right? Like you just got to buckle down and just work harder or get trained and make more money so you can hunt.
that's right.
But again, I feel for the younger guys right now that want to go hunt that are just like, dang it, if I'm responsible, I ain't got nothing left. Um, and I get it because coming up and trying to raise a wife and kids and everything I did when I was younger hunting. I mean, it was tough. There were times when I went hunting where I almost felt bad spending that money on fuel and being gone and the shotgun shells and all of that, thinking, man, I could have done something else with this. Now that I've gotten to this level, I'm glad that I did it. But boy, when I was doing it, it was a pretty worrisome endeavor, right?
Right.
Like, you know, some guys are out there, they're spending their last dying dollar to go do that hunt, whether it's deer hunting or bird hunting or whatever they're doing. Some of them, I mean, every penny they have is that's what they have, and they're going to go hunt with that money, and that's tough. You know, it's getting to the point now where you really got to be a go getter to be able to be having fun out there and relax, or just be that guy that just doesn't care. You know,
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it either
I'm
way.
spending that money. I don't care. But I've had a lot of friends that got into hunting, and I told them, I said, look, this is not a cheap endeavor. It costs money to hunt, and be ready to fail because you could spend a lot of money and a lot of time and get nothing. But that's kind of where I don't like to make the same mistake twice, Kellen,
Uh-huh.
you know? And so when you're out there and you make a mistake, you put that little feather in your hat, and then you might make a different mistake, but you're not going to make that, you don't make the same mistake. So once you go through all the mistakes, and if you really take note of those mistakes, well, then you get pretty dang good because you've gone through all of the mistakes. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And so I say, that's what I tell people. I've already messed up every time, every way. I don't want to mess up anymore. I want to do it right. And so that's kind of one of my things is I've already done that wrong. I've already made that mistake. I'm not going to do that again.
it's like, I'm not doing
And
that.
so, yeah, and that's hunting. You make good decisions, you make bad decisions, and you learn from it. But when you make the right decisions, boy, it feels good, don't it?
Oh,
Like,
yes, it does.
it's so good. I was telling guys, I spent my last dying dollar to go on a hunt, and it sucked. And I was like, I wish I never did that. And then I spent my last dying dollar to do a hunt, and it was amazing. And went, that was so worth it. And so, there's two sides of the coin, but either way, I'm still flipping it myself. I'm gonna pull that lever on the slot machine. I'm gonna put my coin in there and do it. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, man. Uh, but when you win, that makes it feel better.
That's right.
I keep telling my buddy he's had some tough hunts. That you keep getting the bad hunts out of the way. So every bad hunt you have, boy, you're just that much closer to the good one.
That is true.
When you get that hunt, you're gonna appreciate it, you know?
That
But the economy of hunting is a very difficult one for many. Um, for some, no, I get it. There's guys that are really successful and they have disposable income, but I really think there's a big percentage of hunters that don't have a disposable income. There is a frustration for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I've kinda gotten to meet both sides of that for here around here for sure.
Yeah. Well, again, being young is not easy. So, you know, having extra hundreds of dollars for fuel and waiters or guns. And I mean, shoot, like you said, the sacrifice you're making because you need a place to live, but you can't have a dog there, you know? You're not the only one, buddy. You're not
Yeah,
the only one.
we can make that change now. I mean, we just put in our house offer, so we'll see what ends up happening.
Well, we'll all just stay positive on that and hope for the best. But yeah, that'd be great for you to, have somewhere solid for yourself to where you can make your own decisions. And if you want a dog, you can have a dog or whatever equipment you need to store. Because yeah, that can't be very easy to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, it's been a battle. I'm like, "Man, I wish we could have a dog here," but now that we're hopefully get a house here soon, that we can make that happen.
Yeah, it'll definitely increase your bird hunting pleasure
Oh,
when you
yeah.
get the right. Dogs can be a two-sided coin as well, man. They can either be a real pleasure or a real pain in the keister. So, um, you know, um, I started out when I was your age. everybody else had dogs, so I just went. One guy had a spaniel where you literally, when the spaniel started running, you had to start running with the dog because he wasn't going to stop. He wasn't going to point. He was just going to run after that pheasant until it flew. So we would run through these dang fields after this dog to stay up with him so we can get a shot at a bird, you know, um, and then, I had another friend with such an amazing English pointer. It was the opposite. We wouldn't even load our guns or leave the truck. We would just send her out into the field and wait for her to lock up on point, and then we just load our guns and go walk out to her, and so dogs can be a good or a bad thing depending on you know, how they perform.
Right. And you have what do you have again?
I have the wire-haired pointing griffons.
That's right.
So, yeah, they're a little more unique. They were rare when I got into them, but they're really exploded in popularity. And I don't blame them. But with that being said, there's a lot of mass production of the breed. And there are some dogs that aren't that great of hunters. And the people that are breeding those dogs aren't hunters. And so with the griffons, you got to be careful, bud, because there's a lot of, and I'm not trying to be demeaning when I say this, but there's a lot of hippie chicks breeding pointers. And I don't think that's conductive to a good hunting dog.
Right.
I'd pick I kept 4 females for my last litter to ensure that I got the best female, to ensure that I get the best of the best dog. So I have the best. And then I can select one of those to breed. I don't just get one dog and then say that's my dog and breed it. So I'm very, very careful in the dogs that I choose. I have 2 other females that are really nice in their own ways, but they're not breedable to me. And so my standards are really high when it comes to that because there's certain things I like about the dogs. But a lot of the modern griffons, they're just for looks and the fluffiness and not for the bird fire and the nose that they were actually originated for.
Right.
But I'm really proud of the dogs I have when it comes to pheasant, chucker, grouse. They have a very high sensitivity and they point really far back. Uh, which I was talking to a guy you really should talk to, and his name's Larry Lee. He runs Barley Setters. He knows English setters,
Okay.
and we don't get along all that great but the man is I a hunter and a more wise dog trainer. He's trained, national purple ribbon dogs, of all breeds, but he runs English setters. But he was telling me he was sort of a mentor to me, and he was telling me that, I said, my Anya, boy, she points so far back from the birds. And I said, she's so smart, she's careful. And he goes, well, actually, it's the parts per million in the air of the scent. Certain levels of parts per million will actually trigger a good well-bred dog to lock up and point.
Uh-huh.
So once the scent gets to a certain strength, it overwhelms the dog's urge to lock up and point, right?
Right.
Well, some dogs, it takes more scent than others. Well, evidently, Anya, my old dog, it takes almost no scent. She is so sensitive and such a good pointer that even a light sprinkling of scent, and she's into full bird mode, creeping and scouring in a way that you're just going, "Whoa." I mean, I haven't seen many dogs hold that far back from scent as my specific bloodline. And it's funny because my buddy Mark that took his dog east and got the Hungarian he got his first Hungarian and a couple of chucker with a pup I sold him, and, he said that he pointed so far back, I couldn't find the bird. He said the bird was 30 yards, 40 yards ahead of my dog, and he wouldn't move. And I said, well, that means he's good. The higher the sensitivity, the easier it is to trigger your dog into being birdie. Well, that's what you want. And he went, and I said, you have a high quality dog that takes less parts per million in the air to trigger a point response. And that's what Larry Lee taught me was it's not even the dog can't even help it when they're bred so well. It's a matter of parts per million. It's an actual measurement. So when so many parts per million enter the olfactory of the dog's nose, its brain just takes over and locks up with a well-bred dog.
Right.
You know, a lot of dogs, they'll run right into a bird and just bump them right out. But a good dog that's a real good pointer, they they can't continue to walk. They stop from just the breeding and overwhelming urges within the dog. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of a cool way of seeing it. I've never really looked at it that way.
Right. So if you think about it, there's parts per million in the air of all types of things. And so some dogs are more sensitive than others. Well, why would you want a dog that isn't sensitive? You know,
Right, kinda takes
especially
away the
with
whole
these
point.
wild chucker and Hungarians and whatnot. Boy, they get up so far away that you want your dog to lock up 20 yards back so that you're on guard and ready to go. So there is no surprise, which is why you have the dog, right? The pointer is so that you're not surprised. You
Right.
know it's coming. So that's the advantage of that. But it seems like the last litter I produced, the upland abilities of these dogs has been just crazy good. And I'm really proud of that. The Griffin is a finicky dog. It's a little bit softer, bud. You can't be a hard-handed handler with a Griffin. Like those Germans, you get a German wire hair, German short hair, you can break a baseball bat over their head and they don't even turn. But a Griffin, you raise your voice and you can hurt their feelings. And so, in a way, it's easier to train because you don't have to be a loud, again, heavy handed kind of handler. You can really just be like, hey, I don't like that. And they'll be like, oh, sorry, dad. Where a German dog's like, I don't care what you want. I want that. And I'm going.
I'm gonna go get
And
that.
so, German dogs are brutally honest, superior in every way if you have the training ability to control it all. Um, a lot of green upland guys that haven't had a lot of pointers, boy, a German short hair could be a real thumbs up or a thumbs down for them, bro. Um, you get the right one and they put the right work into it, it's probably going to be the best dog for them in the world. There's nothing that beats a German short hair, honestly. Like they're fire, but you need to know how to handle fire, right?
Right.
Um, and so some guys don't know how to handle fire, uh, and so the Griffin's more sugar than fire, but they got a fire deep in the sugar, so it's a really neat combo. Um, but I'm getting older, man. I can't have a half a mile dog like I used to have, which is the term that a lot of trainers and breeders use for pointers is, you know, what kind of range, what's your dog range, you know? And so, as an upland hunter, you need to be honest with yourself, what kind of range dog that you can handle. You got horses and whatever. I don't know if you've seen those guys with those German short hairs out there in the plains where they got, you know, miles of open country, and some of those dogs are ranging over a mile. But in the grouse woods, I don't like my dogs to range much more than 40 yards.
Right.
So, guys brag about having, 400-yard dogs and half a mile dogs, and all of that. And those are great. but I'm just to the point I can't keep up with dogs like that. And in the stick cover and the way things work with grouse, boy, a 400-yard dog just doesn't work in the grouse woods for me. And I realized that these griffins, being close, attentive dog, staying tight to the handler and actually staying within gun range for most of the hunt makes the grouse hunting a lot more successful. Um, I think if you dialed in the right German dog, you would reign supreme. But it'd be a lot of work to get there, Kellen.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I think the griffin's just easier on a person all the way around because they just don't. Most of my dogs, especially the females, they don't want to range that far. They want to look back. They want to get eye contact. They want to know they're doing good. They want reassurance, and so they stay real close. And I get more shots on birds for that. Um, Now with Chucker, that different story. Some of those guys want their dogs to go for 600 yards and really quarter that ridge. And I don't blame them for that. But some of those birds get bumped in that process. And if they're getting bumped and you're 600 yards from your dog, I mean, you're pretty much just bird watching, right? You're not really hunting. You're just pushing birds around ridges. So I just I figured two or three dogs that work really close and tight is as good as a ranging 400-yard, half a mile ranging German. And so I kind of made it work for myself with the Griffins. They're a really special and neat breed when you get to know them. But they're not all bred equally, but there's some really junky ones out there, and there's some really good ones. And it's a point of frustration for me. Let's just put it
Right. Oh, that's really cool. I really like
that
what
way.
you had to say with that.
Well, I'm trying to be as honest and politically correct at the same time. I love the breed of dog. I love what I have, but I'll bet you dollars. I don't own much, but I'll bet you mine are much better upland dogs than almost any other griffin you could bring up against mine. A lot of them are for looks and not for what for performance. And my dogs, I don't care what they look like, they need to have certain traits if I want to breed them. And I have very high standards in what I'll allow to breed. Um, I have some really nice dogs right now in 3 states that they have they work so well. They are such precise pointers. One has an skin allergy to chicken, so I won't breed her. She is the most ringer, most precise pointer. She is beautiful. She's sweet. She's intelligent. But I'm not going to put my name on dogs that could come out with allergies, you know? And I got another one that's beautiful and she won't swim. I'm not going to breed her because she isn't meet my standards.
Right. You get that standard.
And so, there's a lot of people out there that just buy a dog from a breeder and then make that their flagship breeding dog. And it's not like they pick through litters of dogs for the best ones. But that's my process. I basically breed so I could have the best dogs that I could have, and basically everybody else gets the byproduct.
Right. So with that, where can people find you if they want one of your dogs, where can they find you and reach out to you?
Triple T Griffins is my Facebook page. I don't attend to it too much, but Andrew Terry, on Facebook, you can just talk to me anytime about the bird dog. But yeah, I'm definitely looking. I have a waiting list for Sugar. She's just a rock star of a dog. Got the nose, it's just unbeatable. I got 3 people on a waiting list. I'd like to have 6 before I actually breed her because I try to be an ethical breeder and I'm not trying to scramble at the last minute to find people. Um, and I don't do it for money. I do it for quality, right?
Right.
So I'm not out here trying to crank out a litter every year or 3 litters every year. I pump out a litter when I think it's right. But I have 3 people that really know what I have and want one. And so I'm just kind of piling it up until I get to that point where I feel good about it. And so, yeah, again, I don't breed for money. I don't breed for anything other than A, to continue my bloodline so that I know I can have my own quality dogs. And then I like to see good people have a good dog. So I'm pretty good at finding the right dog for the right guy. And my buddy Mark over there that just took his dog east just proved it. I mean, he just got into hunting, didn't really know that much about pointers, and we started talking. And I told him I found the right dog out of the litter for him. And I said, look, you've never owned a bird dog. Trust me, this guy right here, and I called him Mr. Smoothie. He was a smoother. Most of the really wire hairy. Well, this guy came out smooth and smart. He was just Mr. Smoothie, and I said, man, this is the dog for you. And never owned a bird dog, never owned a dog in his life. Second year of hunting, and he's going out there and having a ball. He does some of those field trials or whatever with that little guy, and he wins every single one. And he doesn't even really know what he's doing. He's just out there having fun.
Hey, that's awesome,
Uh,
man.
and he goes, "It's not even me, it's him. He's just so good." And I go, "Well, he is good, but you take care of him, and you obviously are handling him right, you know." But he my buddy Mark takes no credit for the performance of his dog, and he's such a sweet, good man with such a sweet, good dog. It's like they're just a great combo, you know. And so after the last 3 or 4 litters, but I've been really, really figuring out how they're going to be, their temperament. And, if a guy tells me what they're really looking for in a dog, there's usually one in a litter that'll match the person that's looking. But these girls, they'll run all day, bro, all day. You can run them alongside a quad, miles and miles and miles, and they just stay right there with you, you know. But if they smell a bird, they cannot move. Their legs stop. Like they literally lock up and can't move. And I see it from a very, very young age, these dogs. I can see which one's which. But yeah, it's when you have a really well bred dog, that all you basically need to do is do the obedience, and they literally just go out in the field and start doing it. Um, that's usually 80% of the dogs that come out of my dogs, they don't need much work. They just need to get out there and do it. And I really like that. Um, they're they don't go ranging 800 yards like some of these German dogs. So, you know, you don't even need whistles. You can do it all by voice. And so they're a treat. Not everyone's a treat, but the majority are a real treat to work with. And that's why they're getting more popular. I don't blame guys for wanting griffins, but I will say be careful with make sure if you buy a griffin that it comes from somebody who hunts. That's all I gotta say. Because there's a lot of non-hunters breeding griffins.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a lot of good information, and now people know where they can find you take a lot of
Yeah.
pride and look at quality over that, so, we really love that. Before wrapping it up, I mean, we're coming to a close, and this has been an absolutely amazing podcast, and we've had a lot of fun having you on, being able to hear your story. I just wanna ask you one last question before we close, and it's one question we ask every guest who comes onto the episode. Is there any advice that you would give upland hunters or new upland hunters coming into the sport?
I would say read get your research out there. Read about what you're going after. Read about dog training. Read about birds. Read about the wilderness survival. Read about all of it. Study is what I would say. Read up on it, research. We can't always be in the field, right?
Right.
Like, we got to work. There's times we're on the couch, but you could sit there and turn your brain off and watch TV, or you can read about the habits of chucker, or how to train a dog, or how to work your horse with your dog, or there's a million things to learn. Don't ever stop learning.
I love that advice, man.
That's my advice to everyone out there. Just, you'll learn every day if you allow yourself to.
Right.
So,
No, that's great advice, man. I mean, everybody, there you go. You got it. Go out there, learn. This is our passion, and the way to keep on building onto that passion is by learning and continue to grow. And
yep.
we've had a great time having you on here, Andrew. I mean, you've had a great information for everybody, great stories. And we just want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast. It's been great.
Hey, good to meet you, man. Hopefully you come over to Oregon. We'll go get some grouse.
Hey, that's right, man. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Heck yeah. Well, let's talk about September this coming year, man.
I'm down, man. Anytime.
Nice.
Thank you again, everyone, for listening to the Bird Camp Radio podcast. We had a great time with Andrew Terry. I want to release his time. Andrew, your time was 58.11 seconds, which puts you in 11th place. Once again, you can find us on Bird Camp Radio on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Bird Camp Radio. You can also follow me personally, Kellen Golightly, on all the platforms as well. And remember that we do have our store that is open. You can find the link in each bio that we have. My new book is out, and you can find that on Amazon. It is Where the Grouse Once Drummed. So go give those things some love and support, and thank you again for listening. You've been listening to Bird Camp Radio, where the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and shelf rock ledges always call us back. Until next time, keep your dogs close, your shot true, and your campfire stories ready to share. We'll see you back in camp. Don't miss out on the next episode, where we'll host our next guest on the podcast. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you.